Chapter 5 is shaping up to be the best one yet, and we already got some leaks hinting at new characters and events. Plus, we're going to break down the latest dev updates and finally figure out how many chapters we're actually getting and when Chapter 5 is dropping. Out of all the leaks floating around, one image stands out. At first glance, it looks totally random, but if you stare at it for a sec, you can make out the silhouette of a clown. Before release, everyone thought this leak was tied to those hats we saw leading up to Chapter 4. But after the gameplay trailer dropped, it became clear. Doey's got a hat, but he ain't no clown. So that means we've got at least one confirmed new character for Chapter 5. Someone clown-like. Maybe it's something similar to Lulu the Clown? He's just a fan-made character for now, but I seriously love his whole concept and design. We also got official concept art for Yarnaby, and honestly, there's not much to talk about there. But Doey's concepts? Now those are actually interesting. One concept in particular caught my eye. It features Mommy, Huggy, and Catnap. And since Huggy is officially back, there's a theory that some past characters could return. Now, Mommy Longlegs? Yeah, that's not happening. But Catnap? Considering how he died and the fact that his vital organs weren't even touched, there's a chance he might make a comeback. Personally, I'm not really buying into that theory, but hey, anything's possible. And yeah, Doey having 7 arms looks kinda weird, considering we know he's a fusion of 3 kids, meaning he should have a max of 6 arms. We all knew Nightmare Critters were just filler in Chapter 4, but the news that Pianosaurus wasn't an original character? That one actually bummed me out. At least now it makes sense why he barely got any screen time. Honestly, I think this character could have been developed way better than what we got in the end. But oh well, he was really just there to introduce Doey. Besides that, Isaac answered a bunch of questions, and the one that caught my attention the most was this one. Did you guys always plan to bring Huggy back? Like, I know he's a bit lackluster because of being the first boss and all, but I've seen some people saying it was a desperate attempt to bring back the hype. So, was it always planned? Before getting to Isaac's answer, I want to share my thoughts. People saying that Huggy's return was just a cheap move to bring hype back to the game are talking complete nonsense. Poppy Playtime is still one of the most popular games out there, and the peak player count proves it. I seriously don't get the logic of those who think Poppy is dying, or whatever. Mob Entertainment and Poppy Playtime are doing just fine. And now, here's the actual answer. It was always planned, but I regret not building up to it more. We were afraid of tipping our hand and making it too obvious, since everybody theorized he'd return even with basically no foreshadowing. Maybe it was supposed to be a more epic moment at first, but honestly, it still turned out really cool. Also, that old message from Zach on Discord is now stirring up rumors that Chapter 5 won't be the final one, and that we might get at least 2 more chapters. But to me, that message was just thrown out there without any real meaning. I'm pretty sure Chapter 5 is going to be the grand finale, and I'm going to do my best to prove it to you. But first, let's dive deeper into Chapter 5. Now, if we already know that the main location of this chapter is going to be the labs, and like Poppy told us, the labs are Prototype's main hideout, then the real question is, are they finally going to show him, or are they just going to keep teasing us? I'll say this straight up. I fully believe Chapter 5 is where they finally reveal him completely, and there are so many clues that point right at it. We've been getting hints about him since the earlier chapters, and his so-called first appearance in Chapter 4 gave us a solid look at his silhouette. But the biggest red flag? That one convo between Poppy and that damn Ollie? The same guy we all thought was some kind of friendly character back in Chapter 3, but turns out he was actually...
Ollie! Something's gone horribly wrong! The safe haven...
Shelf ventilation block B6. Is this where you are, Poppy?
What?
Stay where you are.
And listen closely. You're not going to run. You're not going to fight. The charade is over.
Who is this?
An obvious question with an obvious answer.
You... What did you do with Ollie?
I'm right here, Poppy.
For you,
I'll always
be here. I admit, though, I'm disappointed.
The after all that time in your case. I'd hoped you'd see things differently.
Don't you understand?
It's always been about you
And we'll harm you. What we are. That's not a truth that can be brought away. No, not when it can mean so much more.
Prototype. Please.
It's time to come home.
Poppy.
It's time to come home.
And just like that, we're smoothly moving into the next part of this video. Poppy ran off and left us alone with Kissy, and I'm gonna be real with you, I have no clue where she went. Playtime Co. is massive, but one thing's for sure, she didn't run to the prototype. Her reasons for taking off actually make total sense. We already know she ran away once before, back when she was needed the most.
Poppy was nice. I can't find Poppy anywhere. I don't know what happened or where she went, but it's scary here without her. Maybe she ran.
But this time, it's way worse. Imagine being in Poppy's shoes. You've spent your entire life trapped in lies and false hope, and in just 1 second, your entire mission, your purpose, became almost impossible. She just freaked out. Honestly, she probably just hid somewhere nearby, and I guarantee she's coming back in Chapter 5. Now, whether she comes back alone or brings some kind of new ally with her, that's still up in the air, but I wouldn't rule it out. The timing and the sheer size of the factory let Poppy dodge the same terrible fate that her friend had to face.
Some friend, huh?
Don't worry, I'll find her.
As for you two, try to land on your feet.
I've noticed a lot of fans are starting to worry about Kissy, but let's break this down and really figure out if our favorite Kissy Missy is going to make a comeback in Chapter 5. First off, Kissy literally saved our lives. If it wasn't for her, we'd be scattered across the floor in tiny pieces. Seconds before the explosion, she managed to save not just herself, because we clearly see that she survived, but she also kept us alive. But come on, this is mob entertainment we're talking about. They weren't going to let her off that easy. So, of course, they had to crank up the drama. This time, she lost the same arm that already got messed up back in Chapter 3.
What's she doing? This is... No! No! We're coming! Just hold on! Come on, go faster! Kissy!
What really caught my attention was that one moment in the convo between Poppy and the prototype.
Let me tell you what comes next.
I'm going to
Come up there.
and I'm going to
Find you.
We can clearly hear some footsteps and see the terrified reaction from Poppy and Kissy. The big question is, who's this mysterious figure? I've got two theories, and neither of them is exactly good news. If it's the prototype, then, well, we might have to say goodbye to Kissy Missy for good. But there's another option, Huggy Wuggy, and now that would be interesting. Even though his return was kinda expected way before the release, seeing him in full scale like this still sent shockwaves through the fandom. Everybody knows that Huggy Wuggy was the main antagonist in Chapter 1, but there's a theory that things might change in Chapter 5. What if those very footsteps we heard actually belong to Huggy? What if, after our fall, Kissy and Huggy crossed paths, and she managed to convince him to join us? Or maybe he got fed up with the prototype himself and decided to help take him down. Or what if Poppy ran into him after she escaped and somehow convinced him? There are so many possibilities, but I'm really curious to hear your theories. Personally, I find the idea of Kissy persuading Huggy to switch sides the most believable. Looks like we've covered all the key details about the new chapter. Quick, but to the point. No filler, just straight up facts. And now, before we wrap things up, let's talk about some of the more technical aspects of Chapter 5. I think making the last days of January the release date for the new chapter of Poppy Playtime would be an awesome idea, and it's totally likely that Mob will do it. Why mess with what's been working so well for the past 2 years, right? As for the playtime, that's a trickier situation. Each new chapter seems to be longer than the last one. If Chapter 4 took about 1.5 to 2 hours to finish, then Chapter 3 is going to take at least 3 hours. And since we figured out that Chapter 5 is going to be the most important one for us, its minimum playtime will probably be 4 to 4.5 hours.